But let me move to this coin because it might be easier to meet at the coin.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
well,
I'm at the coin too, and I do not see you. Today we're going to be talking about a metaverse that we have not talked about quite yet, Elisha. It's one I'm really, really excited about. It's one that we're seeing a lot of adoption from Gen Z, some of the younger millennials, and it's generating a lot of hype and support from a lot of different people and brands. Uh, so we're going to be talking about the Sandbox. Um, so the Sandbox is, I would say it's probably in the top three. And if you were to kind of rank the metaverses out there of number of adoption and support and funding, the Sandbox is definitely in the top three. Some would put it in the number one spot actually. I would put it in the top three safely, but we have yet to actually play. And I do call it play because it is kind of in this game format. Have you ever played Roblox or
yeah, I did.
Minecraft?
Yeah, I did play Roblox. Minecraft, I didn't play myself. I watched my wife play with her
Yeah,
family members. Yeah.
cool. Yeah, so Roblox and Minecraft, they're kind of more blocky style, intentionally built to be a little bit more blocky, more cartoony a little
Right,
bit.
right.
And the Sandbox is in that kind of same kind of visual style. It also is built on top of it's kind of approaching the metaverse as more of a gaming platform. So I would see it as kind of like if Roblox were to become a blockchain based environment and have NFTs and that kind of thing. So the Sandbox is on the blockchain. It's on the Ethereum, like based off the Ethereum blockchain. They have their own coins. They have Sand as kind of their primary coin, and they have other things like land, estate. They have a few other kind of things that are kind of connected to the Sandbox. And so I've been following them, but I've actually not been able to play quite yet because it was only available for PC users. And I have a Mac. I have a good Mac, but I don't have a PC. I don't have a PC like a powerful PC. I don't have any PC actually at home. You actually do have a PC though,
I
right?
do. I do have a PC, but I don't think I downloaded the Sandbox in the past
Yeah.
to play it.
and
Yeah,
and
myself.
it was actually really hard to actually get access. You had to be for alpha season 1, you'd have to like either go and buy access as an NFT, or you had to go like play enough to like get access. And now we're at season 2, and they do go kind of season based. So now we're at season 2. It's still alpha, and I think they're going to have every single week they're going to have some more and more drops. So let's just talk before we dive in, because the point of today's kind of video and kind of our capturing this today, Elisha, as you know, is we're going to be kind of getting our first impressions. We have yet to play, and we want to maybe start with some assumptions and say, okay, here's from what I've seen, from what I've heard. These are kind of the assumptions I'm going to make. Before we dive into that, I want to just talk about the Sandbox and why it's important. If you are a company, if you're a leader at a company, you might think like, why would I care about the Sandbox, right? Or if you're a consumer, if you're millennial or older than millennial, you might be thinking, why would I care about the Sandbox? And the point is that the metaverse is not a single verse. It's not going to be one brand to rule them all. There's going to be multiple that will exist, and there will be adoption like crazy across these different platforms. And the Sandbox is one that's already gaining a lot of traction. I want to talk about some of the background in it. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm interested in here. Yeah.
so they are the Sandbox is a subsidiary of um, Animoca, I think it's called Animoca Brands. They're essentially like a decentralized virtual world, and there's been a ton of growth and virtual real estate demand. Right, we've seen like Decentraland and like land selling like crazy, and then Somnium Space and land selling like crazy. The Sandbox has that same type of the kind of situation going on. They also have land. It's limited. They have 166,464 lands. That's LAND, all caps, is what they call them. And there's about 19,000 users that own that land, right? And so you're seeing like it's essentially part virtual real estate, part amusement park is a kind of a way to look at it. And they fully embrace this idea of a metaverse. They consider themselves a metaverse, and they see this as this kind of continuous shared digital space where people can go in and consume games, can go live events, can interact with other people, right? And they've been hosting things like virtual fashion shows that have had DJs come in to entertain, and things like that. There are brands that are supporting the Sandbox, like The Walking Dead. Snoop Dogg is like a big brand ambassador, actually. Atari has bought their own land and they're part of it as well. And we're seeing other like big brands that actually have bought land and have made they've picked essentially, like, they've looked at Decentraland, they've looked at Somnium, they looked at Sandbox, they've looked at some of these other ones, and they've chosen their outposts, like their digital outposts in these virtual worlds, to be in the Sandbox. And that's things like Warner Music Group, Ubisoft, the Rabbids, Gucci Vault, Adidas, Deadmau5, Steve Aoki, the Smurfs, Care Bear, Atari, Crypto Kitties, and there's a ton of other brands that are like actually using the Sandbox as their go-to kind of. They buy land and they start to create environments and either games or experiences essentially for people to come in and consume.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think unlike social media accounts where anyone can just go up and just create a free account and just not use it, or brands these days, they probably are going to be available in most of the social media outlets, and they might hire different people for each. But I think right now, because you have to buy a land, you have limited resources, it's not like a free for all, that brands probably are maybe somewhat forced to represent themselves in more like one or two metaverse environments at once, probably, right?
Yeah, and I'm noticing that most of these brands, they're creating more of gaming experiences. So like when The Walking Dead came on, they bought some land and they didn't go like, we've reviewed Samsung's, what was it, 637? What was the number?
Yeah, I forgot.
837, 837X.
X, yeah.
Right? And theirs was more of like, you go in, they had these different experiences, you have a purpose of accomplishing a certain thing. So it's kind of gamified, but it was a virtual world. You could also go and not play the game, and you can just go and kind of consume the experience, right? The Sandbox is similar in that way, but I would say it's definitely more game focused from my understanding. It's a game focused environment where you're actually going and accomplishing, and it's telling you like, okay, go collect the voxelites, right? Like that's the first thing I've heard that you'll have to do. And if you go to The Walking Dead, for example, what The Walking Dead said was, hey, we want to build a Walking Dead game. We're going to allow any of you that are players in the Sandbox to help us create our game. Use the builder, right? In the same way that Roblox exists, the Sandbox is made. All their games are kind of made by the people. User-generated worlds, user-generated experiences. And so they said like, hey, go and help us do that. And the top 3 people are going to get sand. Like they're going to get the coin. And it was going to be quite a lot, actually. So it was like, they basically like outsourced the work, and then people went and built it, and then they put it on their like plot of land, and that's what the Walking Dead is using as a representation. And so some of these other brands are doing that same thing. The Snoop Dogg has one as well. There's different things like that. So it's kind of interesting the approach that the Sandbox is using and the brands that are in the Sandbox and how they're approaching like their experiences and their gaming. So the Sandbox is also building off of, they have a mobile game, Elisha. I actually didn't know about, I knew about it, but it was something I had to kind of do some research on. They had like over 40 million installs on their mobile game.
Wow.
But that's completely separate from the Sandbox metaverse that we're going to be looking at today. But it is building off of that kind of environment. This is Decentraland, like I said. Everything is NFT based. So I could sell wearables, I could sell a head, I could sell like lower body, I could sell like accessories that you carry around. And they have apps that eventually we'll probably want to review, that let you show like, hey, I want to go create this item, and then you could list it in their marketplace and sell it as an NFT that somebody can go and consume, and use for other stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like a high level look at the Sandbox as far as some of their background. They've had quite a lot of funding. So I think they're currently at Series B round, led by SoftBank, which is a big one. You know, SoftBank and they raised, I think, in November, another $93 million, right? So they're getting tons and tons
Whoa, that's a lot.
of growth. And if you think about 2021, right, like towards the end of 2021, they're like, we officially hit 500,000 registered wallets, and we have 12,000 unique virtual landowners, and we're generating over 144 million US dollars. That's
Whoa,
kind of cycling through the sandbox. It's
that's a
insane.
lot.
That's a lot.
A lot.
Yeah. So that was 2021, and they just made a huge announcement when they launched Alpha Season 2, and they said, we officially hit 2 million users. So it was a big jump from 500 to now 2 million users that have officially kind of registered. So lots of active, and that's not monthly active users or daily active users. That's total kind of users that have kind of set up accounts, downloaded it on a PC, which again is still a lot of friction if you think about it. This is not a browser-based game. This is not a VR experience. This is not a mobile app. This is a native Mac app that's built on Unity. It's a native PC app that you have to consume, and they're at the 2 million user mark. So quite a lot of background there, but I think it's important to know that backdrop as we kind of jump into this game. So, Elisha, tell me what your 3 impressions are, or your 3 kind of predictions or assumptions before we dive into the game.
So I think you kind of actually gave my first one away. I was expecting like a world of like a game that users can generate, just like a Roblox. Okay. Just because I played the Roblox, I kind of expected the same thing to be available, and that usually supports like a long-term value of the game where game developers are not the one creating those games, because eventually you're gonna run out of these, and they usually have to like confine the mini games within like what makes sense, right, to the game style. But when you include user generated content, they are going to create wacky, weird stuff, and I think people like those weird stuff.
Yeah,
like, whoa, what is this? That's weird. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And leveraging people's creativity, I think, is a way to kind of elongate the life cycle of the game, like the Mario Maker, where user generate the game levels in Mario, and people around the world just plays it. There's no language barrier. People just play it, enjoy, and everyone posts how they played their game versus I'm playing someone else's game that they created, and that's like opportunities for content, right, outside of just playing inside. So that was my first assumption, but I guess that's already there. Another one is more like how the world maybe is created. Just because it looks like a game, I kind of expect like maybe like dragons and dungeons and swords and magic, and I don't know if that's something the user actually like have interactivity. I don't know if it's user swinging the sword or if it's just like, oh, the world has a dragon. It's just more like a static object, just because it's more somewhat static in the sense where like you can probably buy a statue of a dragon or something like that in this game because it's NFT. You can create some graphics, right? But I don't know if that's a riggable interactive thing where sword has actual meaning of breaking objects. I don't know how far that goes, but I kind of expect that, the fantasy world elements. And I think the last assumption that I have is there's kind of mimicking some RPG games where there's a quest to perform, the house that you can decorate, the pets that you can bring around. Those are something you see in like MMORPG. So that's my assumption, that maybe they're borrowing a lot of elements from the game just because it looks like it, and maybe that's why user might expect, what they see is what they get. So those are my assumptions. But Johnny, do you have what's your assumptions?
Yeah, I mean, I have been following it, but I said I kind of generally know some things that can be done and not done. So the things that I'm making assumptions are that I'm hoping are going to be the case. Well, I mean, some of these I'm hoping, and some of these I guess we'll find out. But I've seen like in Decentraland, we have been able to, like, even though we're on different servers, we've been able to say like, hey, Elisha, come meet with me here in this server. That process is still kind of clunky in Decentraland. It's also kind of clunky in Horizon Worlds. We saw that too, where we're like, I can't find you. How do we get to the same environment?
Yeah, we struggle
And
finding each
so
other like when trying to record video,
everyone,
right? Every time it's like,
every
where are
time.
you? I'm back here. I'm back there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping that that process is a little bit easier. So my first assumption is that the sandbox is going to get it right and that we're going to be able to easily connect to each other, even though we haven't done that yet. I'm hoping that I can be like, oh, let me add Elisha as a friend and let's go meet together in this particular area. That's assumption number one. Assumption number two is, and it's more of a hope, is that it's kind of like Somnium Space, where Somnium Space is a massive, and I guess, and Decentraland, where it's a massive map that theoretically I could just run around and go to the different areas and different land, and it just continuously goes from environment to environment. That's not the case in Decentraland. We can also navigate through a map, I'm sure. That's another, I mean, I guess kind of the same assumption is that essentially it's that I can travel from place to place freely without having to reload, without having to do anything kind of crazy to go from place to place.
It's like an open world.
Open world.
The Breath of the Wild, where you can just keep running, and in the game you just keep loading the next map instead of like, boop, now loading, and then like now you enter to different blocks of the area, right? Yeah.
Okay, assumption number 3, and I actually have 4. I'm breaking the rule. I said 3, but I'm gonna do 4. Assumption number 3 is that I think we're gonna see a lot of Gen Z, and by that I mean I think there's gonna be a lot of audio of kids, you know, like young kids that are probably, I mean, there's probably a lot of people in school, but maybe on the other side of the world right now, and there's gonna be a lot of like under 15-year-olds that are inside the sandbox that have PCs. They're either gamers or they're content creators or they're building stuff in the metaverse, and it's a bunch of young people. That's my assumption. I don't imagine a lot of older, you know, like older millennials or older than that, kind of in the environment. That's my assumption, and I hope I'm wrong. That doesn't mean that businesses can't be in here, which leads me to my fourth assumption is that I think that the sandbox is not going to be very obviously business focused. So I don't think we're going to see any business fronts that are just there like, hey, we're a finance bank, or we're like a banking company. Like you see that in Crypto Voxel, you see that in Decentraland. Like, hey, we're going to do we're educating, right? Like we're seeing that in Decentraland, we're seeing that in these other environments. Horizon has that. I saw a concept of that in Somnium Space, where people are basically like, hey, we're like doing education and we're holding like an event that does this, right? I don't see the sandbox being really focused on the business side. I see it more focused on the gaming side. So those are my 4 assumptions. Meeting easily, open world concept, lots of Gen Z, and not obviously business focused.
Yeah, and I think those are like what we kind of hope to probably see, right? Like in this type of visuals, like I kind of expect more game-like experience. Like I want to come in here to kind of enjoy, have, you know, good time and fun time, as opposed to, oh, let's go to this business storefront and see if I can learn more about this business. I'm probably not thinking about that when I go into the sandbox world.
At least that's the assumption. Yeah, that's true. Cool. So should we dive in, Elisha?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yes, I have already downloaded the application, and I'm at the like a starting point in the world. I guess I can
the spawn point, right?
Yeah, spawn point. So I can actually share my stream, and this is running on my Mac. And just for reference, actually, let me pull up my Mac spec, because people might be wondering, like, is this going to require decent Mac? So I'm using MacBook Pro 16-inch 2019 model, so not the latest. It's like 3 years old. Processor is Intel 2.3 gigahertz, so it's not like the fastest, but 8 core. Memory is 16, and I have a dedicated graphics of 4 gigabyte from AMD, so maybe that's helping. I don't know if it is utilizing that or not, but it probably is helping out. And for me, it's running pretty smoothly. And let me go to settings. So I'm running at the 960 resolution, and I think this is what the game picked, probably based on the spec on my Mac.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna keep to that, because I don't need to see this in like higher resolution. I think I get that it's a voxel style.
And just to plug it, I'm on the Apple M1 Max MacBook Pro. It's got 32 cores, I think similar resolution. So it's got like some of the upgraded stuff there, but 32 gigabytes of memory. And I think I told you about the graphics card. I think that's running, the I don't see it in here. But essentially, it's kind of like the spec'd out M1 Max, which you would expect should be able to run this. So it's good to hear that yours is running it just fine.
And I don't know if M1 have any separate graphics card. I wonder if it's all integrated.
Alrighty, so maybe quest 1 for us is let's see if we can meet each other.
Yeah. So I am.
Are you also in the alpha lobby?
I think I am. Where am I?
Yeah, it looks like you are. I'm seeing your screen.
It says alpha body.
Alpha lobby as well.
0, 0. 0, 0 is a coordinate. Let me move to this coin because it might be easier to meet at the coin.
Yeah, okay. I'm at the coin too, and I do not see you.
Oh.
So this seems like this is server based as well.
Interesting.
So they have a limit to the number of users. That's my immediate assumption. So let's go to the map, right? Oh no, map is in the browser.
That's a little weird.
And I can see that in the map, there's a lot of different brands in here. So I can see, like, at a quick glance, Socios, The Walking Dead, looks like the Smurfs, lots of like NFT avatars, like PFP avatars. I see Snoop Dogg. So there's all these brands, and I can zoom in and I can click on one of these, and it looks like I can see what kind of land it is. Let's click on this one. View lands. Oh, it has all these coordinates. Joe Rogan to be my virtual neighbor. So people writing out calls to have certain celebrities to go meet with them. Okay, I don't know what I clicked on something that's gonna actually launch something, I believe.
Interesting. It's very interesting. It reminds me of the $100 million site where
I remember that where you just buy like a pixel and it's like, okay, now you own it. It's the same concept, it seems like, but it's more of you can actually jump into it. So anyway, that's the map. Real quick here, let's see. I guess this is more of like what's for sale, what's not for sale. I don't know if this is like the way to navigate. So I think if I go back to alpha, what I'm hoping to find out, Elisha, is how do I add you as a friend for us to play together, right?
That's a common problem we see in like MMORPGs as well, where like your characters are stuck in Northwest server, so you can't play with your friends who have a character in, the Asia server. That's a very common, complex problem, and I wonder if, the Roblox and these games are running into similar problems. And I think it depends on the company how they account for that ahead of time, supporting millions of users and the need to connect with each other, right? So
100% agree. And so my quick takeaway from this is I don't clearly know how to add a friend or how to go join a friend. Maybe they don't do that yet because it's in the alpha version, and so you're just kind of there and they just plop you in. You could tell that it says multiplayer, 0 of 2 quests complete. So my immediate assumption is this is about completing quests, and there's kind of this alpha. I think the alpha is all just in this small little blue thing, and I don't get to go explore anything outside of this. I can only stay within this. It's my assumption. And it tells you release date 21st of March, release date, so there's release dates tied to each of these experiences. So if there's one we're really excited about, like the Snoop Dogg one, for example, March 11th, in 2 days, this is going to launch. It's a single player game. This is a multiplayer game. So you get a sense for the games. So I think your assumption of it being gamified was right. My assumption of being able to connect with friends was wrong.
Yeah, and we don't even see like a friend list or something in the game itself, unless maybe like once you're done with the tutorial, maybe it unlocks like friend features, and maybe we have to, you know, explore this in like a series, right? Like maybe we, this is a series one, and maybe we can do series two, series three to like verify, how we are able to discover more things over time and share like what we find maybe each week or every 2 weeks. That might be a good way to keep discovering and keep learning about the platform.
Yep, I totally agree with that. I think that's a great idea. And yeah, I think that we will discover more and more. I think there's going to be more released. I think by the end of this season 2, I think all of it will be open anyway,
Mm.
and we can maybe start to search on some of those assumptions to see what's possible or not. But good initial start, I guess, to launching the game, seeing how we navigate what's available in alpha season, what can or can't be done from a friend perspective. So we'll go from there.
Yeah, so make sure to follow us and also just subscribe, turn on the bell notification on the YouTube so that you actually get notifications when we have the new series. We will most likely go back to the Sandbox land and share what we learned and see if our assumptions are right or wrong. We're also thinking about maybe doing this as like a live show so that it's more like casual format and people can jump on and try it at the same time together. Maybe they can also teach us like if we're missing some features that obviously is there but like somehow we're not discovering. So this could be a very interesting interactive experience with
Yeah,
our subscribers as well.
we are hoping to see if we can connect with some of the leadership over at the Sandbox. I know we have South by Southwest here in Austin, where I head up kind of the Fresh Labs here in Austin, Texas, and I'm hoping to meet up with some of the leadership team that's presenting, and theoretically we can get a little hands-on kind of
Yeah.
walkthrough, come with some questions, and then hopefully get some
Yeah.
answers on some of this stuff. So stay tuned to see if that's something we'll do here in the next few weeks.